show on the radio. Hey, hello, here we go. I don't know a better show, Space Croutons 4.0. We race through space and time, transportals and worlds that rhyme. Our stories just hit the spot. Don't tune in late, you'll miss the plot. Well, hello, here we go. Have you heard about a good time show on the radio? So to and fro, here we go. I don't know a better show, Space Croutons 4.0. Join us on our starship cruise while we endeavor to amuse. In each and every episode, we stream across the great cosmos. Well, hello, here we go. Have you heard about a good time show on the radio? Look out below, here we go. I don't know what better show, Space Croutons 4.0.
Sally, have you seen my Space Crouton socks? I've been looking everywhere and I just can't find them.
Need I remind you, Curdy, I am not your housekeeper, or your mother. It is not in my job description to keep up with your socks. I will point out that most of the time socks are worn on the feet. Have you checked your feet for your socks?
Come on, Sally, what do you take me for, an idiot? Besides, I just checked there, and I'm wearing my lucky knee-high white athletic socks with a triple red stripe around the top.
Do you mean the socks that were all the rage with athletes in the mid to late 1970s? How do you even have a pair of those socks still? After 50-plus years they should be in the rag bag. Even without seeing them, I calculate that there is a 99.9% chance there are multiple holes in those socks.
Get off my socks, Sally. These socks are vintage. As you reminded me, you are not my mother nor my housekeeper, so let me worry about when my socks go from the sock drawer into the rag bag, why don't you? You know, we're really off topic, Sally. I need to find my Space Crouton socks. These socks are special because they were hand-knitted for me by a very sweet listener from East Egypt, Mississippi. They are so great-looking, with a solid blue background for a bright yellow Van Helsing on the sides. I really wanted to wear them today for our latest episode of Space Croutons.
Speaking of which, it is time to start the episode. Would you like me to play the commercial first in order to give you another few minutes to search for your lucky Space Crouton socks?
Thanks, Sally. That would be amazing. I just had these socks. Now, where did I lay them down? They've got to be around here somewhere. The van is not that big.
Welcome, folks, to another episode of Space Croutons Season 4. Today's episode is titled Travelers Got to Travel, and as you might suspect, it concerns some revelations about some very special time travelers from Earth's last century. Before we start the actual story, we need to bring you a word from our sponsor, the Geek Letter, DOP.
Hey all you travelers out there wishing for a special trip. Maybe you long for a cruise to Alaska, or it could be that the Bahamas are more your desire. You might fancy a trip outside of your normal environment, such as to the planet Quell. But sometimes our travel plans just never get off the ground. Did you know that your travel could be stalled and stuck in first gear unless you employ the Greek letter DOP in your planning? DOP, as in the Doppler effect, get it? You may remember that the Doppler effect or Doppler shift occurs where there is a change to the frequency of a wave in relation to someone or something that is not moving. So if you want to get to traveling, get some DOP going in your life. Stop standing still and get to moving. All of the Geek Alphabet letters can be found in our text, The Alphabet According to Geeks. Also available as a downloadable version for only 88 microcredits. Available 24/7, 365. Not available on leap day or during sleep year. From your friends at It's All Geek to Me, the website for all things geek. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back, friends, and welcome back, Curdy. I see you found your Space Croutons socks, Curdy. Where were they?
Right where I left them, of course. Why is it always in the last place you look for something that you find it?
Is that a trick question? Things are always in the last place you look for them because you do not continue to look for things once you find them.
Well, you got me there, Sally. Note to self. Get the rhetorical question add-in bundle for Sally's programming. Now, let's get on with today's episode. We have had another communication from our young friend Seiver and his brother Trelen. They encountered an interesting story while at their local library. Sally, do you have the fellas on the line?
We are here, Curdy.
And we can hear you loud and clear.
That's great, boys. I'm so glad to hear from you again, and I'm sitting on pins and needles waiting for the story you ran across at the library. What better place to find some good stories than at your local library? It's like my dad used to say, there's a heap more free entertainment in a library than in a room full of spotted puppies, and it smells a lot better, too. So tell me, guys, why is this story a good fit for the Space Croutons podcast?
We were talking to our county historian, Emerson Salter, who was at the library at the same time we were there. And she told us about a very interesting journal she found in a box that was part of an estate gift.
Once she told us about the contents of the journal, we knew you had to hear it as well, Curdy. So we asked her to make an audio recording of it for the podcast. It took her 2 hours to tell us about all the travelers, but we knew that we would be too long for the podcast.
So we made an edited version that keeps the highlights of the story for you and your listeners.
Good thinking, guys. Well, let's play the recording.
Thank you for your interest in our county's history, boys. What I'm about to tell you, many people will not believe is true. And while I do not have corroboration as yet from another source, the coincidences present a very compelling picture. This journal reveals that at least 4 people from the future traveled back into the early 1900s and significantly impacted the course of history, not just the history of our county, but of the United States and even the world. While the specific names of the travelers are not given in the journal, I believe this was not an oversight but done deliberately in order to protect their safety. The names of the people that they influenced are revealed. According to the journal, it is apparent that Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, and Eleanor Roosevelt were all impacted at critical junctures in their lives by these time travelers. I'll just call them the travelers from this point forward.
I'm no history buff, but even I know that these folks were very important in history.
I've heard of Henry Ford. He's an amazing person known for making cars. In fact, our family has a Ford vehicle right now.
Well, if the Traveler's Journal is to be believed, Mr. Ford might have never made his first popular Model T without the influence of a traveler. I believe 1905 was a pivotal year for the travelers who influenced these historical figures. Take Henry Ford, for example. He incorporated the Ford Motor Company in 1903, but it wasn't until 1908 that the Model T came out. His innovations with the assembly line were pivotal to making vehicles cheaper to build and ownership more affordable. He also figured out how to retain his best engineers by increasing their salary. Before he instituted that policy, in a year's time, 100 job openings were filled by 300 people. Ford and his company were constantly having to train and replace their workers. The traveler indicated that this was pointed out to Ford.
How did the traveler gain Ford's trust? Why would Mr. Ford even listen to the traveler? I would be pretty suspicious if a stranger came up to me trying to give me business advice.
The journal's not completely clear on that point, but it gives the impression that the traveler actually portals into the mind of the person they are influencing.
That's super creepy. It reminds me of that old 80s television show our Ruru loves to watch called Quantum Leap. The character Sam Beckett leaps into a person in the past to correct things that once went wrong. I don't think I would like having someone in my head mucking around with my thoughts and stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine it may have been something similar to that. Ford was visited several times over the years. Each entry in the journal related to Ford highlights a significant change in the direction of policies at the Ford Motor Company. In one entry, the traveler tells that Ford instituted a 5-day, 40-hour work week and doubled the wages of his workers. This policy gave the workers more money to buy his product and more time to use the product.
It sounds like Mr. Ford was more concerned about selling his cars than taking care of his own workers, to describe it like that. Keeping the cost of vehicles low allowed Ford to gain advantages over car companies. I guess the Chinese are trying to do something similar. There's a super cheap electric vehicle called the Seagull.
Very astute, Trelen. History tells us that Ford had definite ideas and was hard to sway at times. Even his own son could not convince him about some things that were showing success with other car companies.
Yeah, I heard about some of those conflicts. What I'm wondering about this is whether the traveler was responsible for the diesel car design.
So interesting that you should ask that, Seiver. The journal does mention the Edsel, but categorically denied having any influence on that year's model and design. It seems like no one wants to claim credit for that failed model.
You said that 1905 was a particularly active year for the Travelers. What else happened during that year to you say that, Emerson?
Some people may say it's not very important, but on March 17, 1905, Eleanor Roosevelt married her fifth cousin, Franklin Roosevelt. According to the Traveler's Journal, Eleanor was not 100% sold on the marriage to Franklin, partly due to Franklin's overbearing mother, with whom she would be forced to share a home for many years. However, Eleanor's role and impact in the life of Franklin cannot be overstated. When her husband was stricken with his debilitating paralysis, Eleanor saved his life with her constant nursing care. At Eleanor's urging and insistence, even going head-to-head against her mother-in-law and her wishes for her son, Franklin stayed in politics instead of retiring as his mother wanted.
That is really hard to imagine. FDR never becoming president at one of the most critical times in United States history. He was the only president to be elected 4 times. He saw us through the Great Depression. My great-grandmother remembers hearing his fireside chats on the radio when she was just a child, and how his calm assurance made her parents feel like things were going to get better.
I read an article about Eleanor Roosevelt in my social studies class. She did a lot of things as a first lady that were never done before by other first ladies. She had a radio program, and she wrote a column for the newspapers. She made campaign speeches and visited places instead of the president going to visit. Some of her peers felt that she had too much influence with her husband about political matters. The article also said she was a great champion of civil rights.
Eleanor Roosevelt's impact went beyond being a very active and involved First Lady at a time when most women in our country did not have jobs outside of their homes. After her husband's death, she continued her advocacy work, making great strides in promoting the Declaration of Human Rights with the United Nations. She had a traveler whispering in her ears many times over those years.
Emerson, with so many trips the Travelers were making, how did you land on the year 1905 being significant?
The journal indicates that the Travelers made several trips during critical times in United States history. I really began to see the importance of 1905 when I read about Albert Einstein in the journal. 1905 is still called his miracle year. In that 1 year, he wrote 4 very important papers that expanded scientific thought significantly. He was married at the time to Mileva Merrick, who was a physicist and a mathematician herself. The Traveler recounts working together with Einstein and Merrick throughout 1904 and 1905. Historians today debate whether the couple collaborated over the work or not, but the Traveler clearly states in the journal that often the couple could be seen sitting at the kitchen table with books and papers scattered over top discussing together scientific ideas.
Scientists are still talking about and expanding on Einstein's work. We had to study his general theory of relativity, and we also learned about Brownian motion, which was the subject of one of Einstein's papers. Einstein's work was very important, and now you think a Traveler had something to do with it?
This is starting to freak me out. History can really be mind-bending, especially with travelers going back into time and mess around with stuff, like people's minds and things. I never knew about Einstein's first wife, and now to learn she may have been an instrument in helping her husband develop his theories. Crazy.
It's not at all surprising to me. We see historians back in the day, and even still today, recording a small slice of history and not looking at the bigger picture. Unfortunately, this happens all the time. Just look at how Native Americans are portrayed in many of the older history books. You can see the way some historians skew the history instead of giving a more balanced representation. I can't tell from the journal if the Traveler inhabited Einstein's mind or Merrick's mind or influenced them through a close friend. It really isn't clear. Einstein in his letters of that time stated how much more enjoyable it was to study these scientific things with Mileva at his side. Nevertheless, the combination of them working together with a Traveler at their side yielded some very powerful results.
You mentioned earlier that Thomas Edison was also visited by a Traveler. What does the journal tell us about that? I know that Edison patented over 1,000 inventions, but that's about all I know.
Oh, Thomas Edison was quite a character and a very hard worker. He didn't have a lot of formal training, but he was uniquely able to see how to make improvements on other people's designs. Quite a lot of his work was an improvement on someone else's invention. In the journal, the Traveler talks about how many times Edison was visited. I have tracked these visits alongside the dates for the patent submissions, and they line up perfectly.
Can you give us an example of 1 or 2 of these times, Emerson?
Certainly. One of the most prominent events that coincided with the traveler's visit was the establishment of the first ever industrial research facility that Edison conceived of and opened in 1876. This is the first mention of Thomas Edison in the Traveler's Journal. Let me ask you guys, can you name something Edison invented?
I got this one, Lil Bro. He's pretty famous for inventing or perfecting the light bulb.
Right you are, Seiver. I can tell that Trelen knows something about another invention, too, from Edison.
You're right, I sure do. He also was a key developer of components used to make motion pictures. Captain America would be stuck in the comics if it wasn't for Edison.
Very good, guys. Edison had two very prolific periods of invention, beginning in 1872 through 1890, and then another stretch between 1897 and 1912. During these periods, Edison was visited almost monthly by a traveler. It is incredible, all of the things he helped design and got patents for. But imagine a world without electric lights if you can. Edison worked hard to perfect electric lighting, but more importantly, he worked to make electrical transmission over large distances a reality. Without his work, our world would be very, very different. He was also a great note-taker and documented all of his ideas.
What do you mean he took great notes?
He filled over 4,000 notebooks with his notes about his inventions.
That is making my hand cramp just thinking about all of that writing.
You know, I'm kind of worried about how all this time disruption done by the travelers may have changed the world. Possibly not always in positive ways. I mean, if things had been left alone, maybe the cars and other inventions would have come out later in our timeline, slowing down global warming until our technology developed naturally.
I don't know about that. Our technology is further along in all kinds of ways. Even the tech that is working to fight against climate change would be more developed because of travelers' visits.
As a matter of fact, the travelers themselves were noticing some anomalies in their own timelines when they returned from their visits to the past, and they made note of those quirky changes in the journal. It led the group to become observers of the past rather than influencers. Even so, Einstein theorized in 1916 that time and space are linked together. They can bend, warp, expand, and contract. The travelers saw this happening with time, even as they were able to travel back in time, which should not have been able to happen according to Einstein's theories. The journal postulates that the reason we are able to use the portals to travel back in time is that time is bending so much that 2 points in time are touching each other.
It's okay if I'm getting a headache from this level of science thinking?
Me too, Seiver. Are we in danger from the time bending and touching points phenomenon?
The journal doesn't really say, and I don't know. Hopefully the great minds of physics are working on solutions even now.
Well, there you have it, Curdy. Not to brag on myself and my technical engineer, Trelen, but I think we did a pretty good job of editing the 2-hour recording down to something manageable for this broadcast.
You certainly did. As for bragging on yourself, my dad used to say, "It's a pretty sorry dog that won't even wag its own tail." You guys have great skills. Thanks for sharing with us.
I hate to interrupt you, Curdy, but it is time for the sign-off and the closing theme song. Our allotted minutes for Space Croutons have elapsed and we must be going.
Right you are, Sally. Trelen and Seiver, thanks again for bringing us another great story. I certainly appreciate it, and I know that our listeners appreciate it too. Give my love to your family, and you boys take care.
We will. Bye.
Goodbye, Curdy. Goodbye, Sally.
Warmest AI regards to you two as well.
Folks, tune in with us in just 2 weeks' time for another mind-bending, time-bending episode of Space Croutons, where you never know what you might learn, but you will always learn something. Until our next story time, keep peace in your heart.
So check us out for Score and All.
This season brought forth the new Spacey theme song.
Oh, we're Space Croutons 4.0. Streaming through the stars in a great big foursome, 4x4. Now you know, here we go. Tell the world about a good time show on the radio. So join the flow. Here we go. I don't know a better show. We're Space Croutons. We're Space Croutons. We're Space Croutons 4.0.
Space Croutons is a work of original fiction. Similarities to persons, situations, or events, real or fictional, is coincidental and unintentional. Created and written by Jerry, Jace, John, Della, and Jeff Goodson. Episode story by Della. Original music by John, Della, Jeff, and Jerry. Production by Jeff. Featuring the voice talents of Joel Blakesley, Levi Blakesley, Rachel Blakesley, James Jared Morrow, Jeff, and Sally. Entire work copyright 2023 by Jeff, John, Jerry, Della, and Jace Goodson. This has been a Good Witch audio production.